welcome back to the Anchor of the Week, where we have hard conversations, hear people's stories, and challenge perspectives.
Yes.
Wow, that was a lot for me.
But you did it.
And I did it, yeah.
Okay.
I was practicing specifically in the car for that one.
I know. So everyone
Yeah.
just leave a
Little
comment
round
on
of
how
applause,
great
yeah.
he did on that.
Anyway, but we are back with a new topic today.
Yes.
Obviously, there's a big event that's happened in the UK, and it's affected us, obviously,
Yes.
and everything that's going on. Bank holidays and stuff.
The Queen has died.
The Queen has passed away, yes. Yeah, and we don't want to really dive into that specifically today, even though sad story and everything, but we kind of, I think it's more kind of the effects of, like, what's happened
Yeah.
because of it, right? Or the things we've not been allowed to do because of it,
A
etc.
little
Whoa, little sneak peek,
foreshadowing
yeah.
for you there. But yeah, obviously it's a huge thing for a country that is, like known for its monarchy. But it has, I feel like, exposed a lot of different things. And maybe people haven't like seen it, but being critical thinkers, you and I,
Yeah.
always looking and always seeing like, okay, like what does this actually, like for society, what does this expose? What did this challenge? What is this kind of revealed?
Yeah.
And it's,
Yeah, the thing that brought up this between us and wanted to bring it up, obviously, Courtney had seen some things in the news about people, like, they weren't protesting, were they? But they were like signs of like, oh, like hashtag against monarchy, or I don't know, just
those were not the hashtags.
okay,
They were
whatever.
way more
Okay,
clever.
no, they were, but like I don't know the specifics. So, but they got arrested, right? Or they got
Yeah.
like, taken down in the sense of like, hey, you're not allowed to do this. Like,
Yeah, really, it's very interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me backtrack for a little
Let's
bit.
do
So
it.
this
Yeah,
all started because I had heard rumors, not rumors, I guess someone had told me that there was going to be on the day of the Queen's funeral an anti-monarchy protest. Now I am not anti-monarchy, but I love a good protest, and I love to figure out why people are protesting.
Yeah.
And so I googled that a couple days ago, like, oh, I wonder if there's anything in the news about it, because a lot of times news does not show protests for obvious reasons. Usually because people are protesting against what the news is supporting.
I had to sneak that in there.
I had to.
You had to. Yeah.
But I was Googling it, and then I actually couldn't find anything on that specific thing. So I don't even know if it happened or if it was just shushed. But what I did find was a lot of articles about people that were at, like, the different funeral processions, because there's been a couple, like,
Yeah.
with moving her body to
Yeah,
different
yeah,
places.
yeah.
And yeah, a lot of people got arrested, but, like, not like, oh, like they were causing a scene, or no one tried to like storm a barricade. No one got like super violent from what I had been seeing. But it was stuff like people had a sign
Yeah.
and then they were arrested, or people made a comment and
Yeah.
then they were arrested.
Right.
And guys, this is so layered because as well, like the UK just passed relatively recently, like this past year, the Police Crimes and Sentencing Act, which I think we've talked about before.
Yeah.
But it's something that I've been very interested in because one of the many, so a lot of the parts of this act are good, but one of the parts of it is essentially giving police like a broader like authority, and a very much more generalized authority to be able to say, okay, like we can arrest you if you're like protesting and it's causing a disturbance,
Yeah.
or it's a public annoyance, or like a lot of very subjective things.
Yes.
Right? Which one, you're like, well, that's what a protest is. But two, like, who decides, oh, that's annoying?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like, is that from police officer to police officer? To summarize, a lot of people did not actually, like, when people were being arrested for this, they were told it was under that act. But I, in my mild conspiracist brain,
Yeah.
like to think that didn't happen because they knew they'd get a lot of backlash because of that.
Yeah.
So a lot of people were actually, like, they were told it was the Police Crime and Sentencing, like, at first, but apparently the police officers were confused. But then later on, we're told that it was under Section 5 of the Public Order Act from 1986, which covers offenses causing harassment, alarm, or distress.
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah. I think like the big thing we kind of want to talk about today is very much like what is free speech, and almost that line of like free speech and respect and accepting, like, because I feel like something like this, in England at least, and actually probably in other countries as well, but like this is like it's very black and white. It's like you have to follow this and you have to go with this. You have to accept this. You have to agree with this almost. And so like this is a very small sign of like any backlash for this. Like it's kind of a no-go. And so we
Yeah.
we were a bit like, when we were talking about this the other day, we were just like, yeah, it's so interesting how, first of all, they're determining the like
Yeah.
like what's acceptable and what's not, and like it's almost like it's like a truth that just stays. It's like the constant here,
Right.
right? It's something that we can't fight against or whatever. It's like, this is England, this is how we do it, and there's no ifs and buts about it.
And that's something, because if this was about like any other government, if this was about the prime minister, there would be actual big
Yeah,
riots,
there
and
would,
maybe
yeah.
people would be arrested. But it is a very interesting thing, because I've got so many screenshots of articles on my phone.
It's good.
There is one article though that CNN wrote that I feel like really put it all into perspective. So
Cool,
we can
yeah.
link that in the show notes. Yeah, so if you guys want to check that out. But basically, like, a lot of what this was, like, there's one sign here that says, "I'm a citizen, not a subject, # not my king." Okay? And see, this is not even about the queen.
No.
Do you know what I mean? And a lot of what the articles that people were saying were like, they were like, oh, like, no, like, we wouldn't do anything to disrespect,
The queen.
like,
yeah.
someone's mourning. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? It's
yeah,
more of, okay, this is like a new political shift, a new political change. And it is.
Yeah.
And I think people are like, okay, if you call this a democracy, then we should have a say in it, you know? And I get it,
Yes.
you don't elect a monarchy. But the fact then that it's not even, okay, we're not just not electing someone, it's we are
We're not allowed to go
have an
against it.
opinion
Yeah.
or go against it.
Yeah.
And so literally people with signs like this, if people had signs, like # not my king,
Yeah.
see, it's a lot more clever. when we use it.
I know.
Or I love citizen, not subject. Like, that's a food for thought one.
It is, yeah.
But like, even if you had something like that, you
Yeah.
would literally approached and arrested and removed.
Yeah.
Or one guy made a comment to, like, I don't know, the people around him or whatever. I actually love the story. Apparently he's a 45-year-old man who was on his way home from church.
Nice.
Which I love.
Wow. Nice.
And he was gonna like trying to get through, and he was like, "Oh, I'll stay" or whatever. And
Yeah.
he didn't say anything when it was about like Lizzie, you know. But when they made a declaration, like, you know, like, our Lord the Liege King
Yeah.
Charles III, he literally said, "Who elected him?"
Yeah.
And a couple minutes later,
Boom.
boom, he was pulled from the crowd. And he said that he only said it in like so the people around him could hear.
Yeah. Interesting, yeah.
Which is, yeah.
Because it's like you can't even disagree. It's not even like he's protesting as such, right?
Yeah.
Or he's not there to like go against
Exactly.
an event that's happening. It's very much like,
Exactly.
it's like a passing comment.
It's a passing comment. And so what someone else pointed out in one of the articles as well was like, okay, so you call that a public annoyance, but if someone who's against monarchy would call a sign pro-monarchy a public annoyance. And that's where the subjective nature
Yeah,
of this
yeah.
comes in, right? And it's who decides what is
Yeah.
the right, what's the wrong, what's the annoyance, what's not the annoyance, what's the ideal, what's the standard.
Yeah, yeah.
Which again is the main meat of what we're talking about today.
Yes, yeah. And I feel like I think there are certain things in certain countries that are like, this is just the way it is. Like it almost like makes up the country and the way it is and like how you look at it. So when I think of, for example, Turkey, like there are certain things that you do in Turkey that are just like you don't. It's not that you don't think about it, but it's like, this is just how things are done here. For example, very basic example is like, you take your shoes off when you enter someone's house.
Right.
Like that's
A cultural.
it's a cultural
yeah.
thing. It's something that you just follow, like putting any opinions aside. It's just what you do it's just part of what you
Yeah.
do. So, but that doesn't change, right? And it's like, it almost makes up part of like what Turkey is. And it's because it's based off of the value of like hospitality,
Right.
things like that, which are very important in Turkey. So like, that's like something that just stays. And so I'm just thinking like, is this something like
Yeah.
that? And it's in the same realm. I know it's much bigger, and it's also political, so it does change.
It has a different.
It has a different kind
Yeah,
of connotation,
connotation.
but Jinx, show me a Coke.
No, I do not.
So I just feel like, yeah, is this something that you can even like, it feels untouchable.
And this is the
And
problem.
I don't know if that's right or wrong.
Right.
Right? I think that's what we want to talk about. But
Because
yeah.
what you touched on is what we talked about in a previous episode on our series about tradition, right? When we had that like debate episode, because
Yeah.
I'm kind of more like, let's move on to the future,
Yeah,
and you're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
let's value tradition.
Yeah.
But a tradition is okay to be kept, you said, because it had the value of hospitality, right? Like
Yeah.
the shoes in Turkey. If you like have a tradition, but you can't define what the value is, then I say, what's the point? You know. But
Yes,
then I
yes.
think that's when people start to get a bit whatever, and then you're like, no, but it just is the way it is, or it has to be like this, or it's
Yeah.
always been like this.
Yeah. Like, what are they based off of? I think that's the big question.
Exactly.
Isn't it?
If you could come to me and tell me exactly why, again, I'm not anti-monarchy. Let there be like a disclaimer at the bottom.
Yeah.
But if I was, like super anti-monarchy, but you could come up to me and tell me, hey, this is why the monarchy is important. This is what it's doing. This is what, okay, your concerns about this, this, and this, this is how we're combating it, or we see that, we don't know how we're going to fix it, because again, like taxpayers' money and all these different things. Yeah. And we're never going to start talking about Prince Andrew, but that's a whole other kind of
Yeah, I don't know. And it's almost like, can we, is there anything we can actually like do about this? Really? Like, I also wanted to touch on like protests and stuff like that. Like, I feel like obviously they're important, but there's certain it almost makes it like, is this worth fighting? Like, if you're not happy with this, is there something you actually can take action in, or like, is this just something you're like, well, this is the way England is, and you need to move to another country if you want to live in a different political system or whatever,
But this brings me to the age-old question, my favorite question: does democracy actually exist?
Right. Yeah, because there are certain people determining. Like,
because if you're told that you can have free speech, if you're told that you can, fight for what you believe in, or you're allowed that space, but then you try to have that space and you are arrested because of it, or you are, But I think what this needs to do, not necessarily, of course, like make us, aware of everything. But I'm just going to flip this really quickly.
Yeah.
A lot of times we put our country on a pedestal because it's like, look at us, look at all this, whatever.
Pride, everything like that.
Yeah, like we're allowed to do, and and people are like this should not happen in like, the UK where we've been a democratic country for so long and all of this. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, well, yeah, but like, let's be real. Like, we have a lot of the same struggle. It's very different and it looks very different. And I'm not talking about like socioeconomical and all of that.
Yeah.
But like, we put ourselves on a pedestal so often. Like, we're the best country. Look at how much freedom we have. And it's like, do you?
Not, yeah.
Like, look at other countries. You know what I mean? And like, okay, we're definitely not as like in dire situations, or maybe like the humanitarian issues are not nearly as big. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the woman in Iran.
Oh, I want to touch on that.
Yeah, guys, this has been, we've had a lot of things going on.
Get that up, yeah. Because, like, especially with, like, the signs and stuff like that that's been going on with the funeral, like we just saw, and with the guy. Like, I feel like you would probably look at that and you'd be like, okay, like, there's a time and place, mate. Like, it's a funeral. Like, is this really the best place to be, like, protesting against someone while like people are in mourning, people are in a sensitive spot, like even the country itself, like the government, everything, like it's in a sensitive place. So if you're gonna press that button now, like it's maybe the worst time, but
are we responsible for that though?
Well, yeah, I mean, okay, that's true, yes, like, but also the idea of like you almost have to go to the extreme to be seen or to make a difference as well. So it's like like this lady, like we're gonna read now, like like the cutting hair, right? Is that
well, we'll give a little bit of the backstory and then the extreme protests, right?
Yes, yeah.
So I'm gonna read this so I don't get like the facts completely wrong.
But I think you need to, like, if you want to make a stand, if you want to make a point,
that's what it is.
It has to be like dramatic almost, right? Or
you have
really
to
controversial.
Controversial. You have to be seen. You have to go against the flow, and that's a very obvious thing. But basically, so 500 plus people in Iran were arrested. I'm reading this from the Saint Hoax Instagram, by the way, so I don't get, like, I don't know, plagiarism. Were arrested at protests over the death of, I'm going to get the name wrong, and I'm so sorry, but Masa Amini, and 7 people killed, say groups. Amini died after an arrest for an improper hijab. So women were seen burning hijabs. Security forces reportedly uses live fire and beating protesters with clubs. And women are like cutting their hair, like in public protests. I guess that the morality, like they literally call it Iran's morality police, arrested Amini for allegedly wearing a hijab loosely, and police claim that she had a heart attack, but protesters say she was beaten. She was 22. Blimey. So it's crazy. And so obviously there's huge protests right now in Iran about this. But what really caught my eye there was the morality police. Yeah. And obviously we know, like, right now, like, it's being ruled by the Islamic Republic, and so there's that whole other side of issues. Yeah. And in that sense, honestly, we are blessed to be living in a country where, like, this is not our main problem. Yeah. 1,000%. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I'm no way comparing the two. Mm-hmm. But I think the principle of morality police is the same
Yeah.
no matter where you go.
Yeah, it is.
And I feel like that's something that we could kind of really lean into in that aspect.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you have to go extreme to make a point. But then at the same time, like I just feel like if this is so untouchable, then it's almost I don't know. It's just a circle and this constant cycle that I see at the moment.
Yeah.
And when I see like, for me, I really need to understand like I'll push and I'll push hard if like I can see like that there's gonna be some kind of like end goal met or
Right.
or something I can shift something, but
Right.
this feels so unshiftable, like certain things.
Yeah.
And I just it makes me almost look up to people who do like fight for things and protests and stuff like that, because honestly they're fighting against a much bigger
Yeah.
beast than like we realize. And like things like that are very like you don't see the progress of the
Yeah.
change and things like that. Yeah, it goes way beyond me, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think it's enough? Because that is one of the things is like you can protest all you want, and the whole what you were saying about like, well, at what point does it make a difference then if they're not going to listen to you or if
Yeah.
they're going to whatever? But like, do you think then it's worth it to like cause a scene and have nothing happen?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, when I was thinking about this on the way here, even I think it's like it is a bit personal in the sense of like like even though I in the grand scheme of things it's not really, but like how does this affect me, like, and is this something I'm really passionate about, or is this something on my heart?
Yeah.
And I think then like I move based off of that. I think you have to move based off of that because
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think most people that protest,
Yeah.
it's like or that.
No, it's
theory.
personal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the idea of like fighting for something and just not being passive about something you're passionate about. Like I think it's more those things that are like, yes, I should fight for this because this is what I've got a big heart for. This is what like I want to see changing, but not the point of like this, like you're not fighting for, you are fighting for change, but you're also it's more like you're fighting for it because you've got a big heart to see the change rather than the change itself. Because if you're doing it for the change itself, then like protests and stuff like that
are pointless.
yeah, really, like in the big things, even though they do things and they stir up stuff,
Yeah.
but
And they have done things.
yes, yeah,
But when
don't-
you're being
you don't
ruled
see
by
the
morality
change all the
police,
time. Yeah,
no.
yeah,
or yeah. And I think as well, like at least for me, one of the things that I think about is like, okay, maybe I can't guarantee that there's going to be an outcome or that like the powers that be will listen. But like I feel like I have a responsibility to at least try or to at least do something and to say something.
Yeah.
Because then at the end of the day, I did my like part, like I did what I could, you know, and I feel like, like I'm responsible in front of God, like that I gave it my everything, you know what I mean? If there's something that I believe is like a true injustice, like, did I do it? Okay, great. Then like I can't control what other people do, which we literally talked about last week in attacking topics, not people. Like you can like confront somebody, but they're like, you can't control how they're going to react to it or receive it, or even if they're going to take it or not. And I feel like this is just that, but just on a major scale.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, it is.
When you fight for an issue, when you like make a scene, if you will. Like
Mo-
it's not our
yeah.
responsibility to make sure that the people actually do something about it, but it's
No.
our responsibility to do everything in our power.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. No.
Sorry, I stole your
No,
point.
no. It's bang on. It's so true though. Yeah. Like their response doesn't make it right or wrong as well, or even like success. Like that doesn't define what success is. So I think that's a big thing when you are like fighting for something, or you have a difference of opinion in something, and you want to show that, etc.
Yeah.
Like the success isn't like whether the change has come or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to take us down a little bit of a rabbit hole of another one. This is a very great episode for me because I feel like we're touching on all my favorite topics.
Politics.
Yeah.
Everything. Yeah.
Here we go. We're going to sneak in a little bit of relative truth here. Okay.
Yeah.
Because, so again, like in Iran, like they call it like the morality police, right? Here with the protests, you could say that there was a truth. There was you do not go against the monarchy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yet we also have these systems and these acts and these bills passed that were built on essentially relative truth because I get to decide whether it is an annoyance, a disturbance, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But basically, we're also saying, no, that there is a truth. And for me, I feel like it's a very interesting clash that we've got going on. And then yesterday, me and my friends were talking, as we do, we were talking about postmodern society is modern society, right? So if you go like modernism, postmodernism, and then we're entering this new age allegedly. I mean, we're still in it of like neo-modernism / meta-modernism. Haven't really defined the two, but those are like the two kind of things that are like in the play. But essentially, right, modernism is there's a black, there's a white, there's a truth, there's a not truth, which would be a lie, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, and like very kind of like that kind of structured mentality, which is what I view like the monarchy, you know, and the people that grew up with it. It's like, it is what it is, and this is what we do, and we respect or whatever. And then enter in postmodernism, where you like think about everything and you challenge everything, and you realize, okay, maybe everyone's right, or maybe there is not just one way. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But now, like, I think we've been in like the postmodern for enough time that we're realizing that without anything
without anything that
absolute.
Yes.
Not sorry, my brain was like, no, that's not what you meant to say.
Yeah.
Without anything absolute, like we're kind of like we're falling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, and one of my friends yesterday said, when you like believe in relativism or live by relativism, it's like having your feet planted in midair.
Yeah.
Right. So you're stable, but like you're gonna hit the ground eventually because there's nothing to actually stand on. You know, you might be stiff and secure.
Yeah.
And so I feel like we're kind of entering this thing where like we're gonna have to fall and hit the ground at some point.
Yeah.
And this for me is just a perfect example of that. You say that, hey, believe whatever you want to believe, fight for whatever you want to believe. Like you have your rights, I have my rights. But then once the rights disagree with whatever someone decided, it's a no.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, where are we? Are we actually living in a postmodern like relative society? Are we making our way back to absolute? And is that good? Is that bad?
Yeah. Well, it's who's defining these truths and these like, you know, that's like the constant thing we're always going back to is like just the Queen and that whole gig is like, this is something that is a truth in England and it doesn't change. Doesn't matter what you think. And again, I guess, just cycling back here, but it's very like, it's traditions that have just been passed down that we haven't questioned or thought about. That's just stuck because we haven't done that. And it's like untouchable, like what you were saying. So I think like how the big thing for me is like how we move with that amongst us. It's like, or like, how do we go against that, but also like have our own like I feel like for us as Christians it's a lot simpler of a game, right? Of in the sense of like we know our truths and we stick with them, and like
it's like defined for us.
It's very like these things, it's very clear. But I feel like for non-Christians, I feel like that's such a blurry line because their truths are based off of like, I don't know. I mean, I could go on about that, but like things
your favorite topic.
Yeah, I know. But like, you know, everything else, right? And honestly, their truth changes as they get older. So, like the things they're holding on, experience. So, they're the things that they're holding on to is like, oh, I'm holding on to this now, and then they're gonna be holding on to something else in a year's time, and like all those things change. So, the idea of like, I don't know, that I feel like their opinion will just change as it goes. Right. So, what are they holding on to when it comes to the Queen? And like, and then you put it into that perspective, and like they're like, well, I guess this is like, how can you go against that when your idea of truth changes all the time as well? So,
but here's the thing: is the idea of the monarchy, like, this is my question for you, do you believe that that's an absolute truth that people then are kind of like need to kind of fight against, and because they have a relative truth that maybe, or do you think the monarchy is a relative truth?
Are you going to get me arrested?
That is literally my goal. Hey, I know how to do prison makeup. I am ready.
Prison makeup?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll tell you later.
I don't know what that looks like.
Use a magazine and some Vaseline, and you can do a whole face of makeup.
Really?
Yeah. I've watched the YouTube videos.
Like different colors?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
Okay. Good for me to know. Not really. But yeah. Honestly, I mean, it's a big question. I feel like, I don't know. To be honest, I don't really know where I stand in the sense of political views. Like, I probably don't know enough to be like, to fight for something, but then also go against something because I don't know what I'm fighting.
Right.
But even though I'm English and
this is where we educate you. It's fine.
This is good. But I think it is relative truth because it's based off of, I don't know what it's based off of. I'm English. My dad's English. Like, for example, my parents, it's much more like a pride thing than it is like, this is what I think it's like how things should be. It's much more like, she's our queen. Like, we love her. Like, we want to look after her, etc.
Yeah.
Like, it's like a patriotic pride
Yeah, I guess
thing,
like a
right?
patriotic thing. Yeah.
And like she's great, like, you know, the Queen's speech at Christmas time, big thing in our family. Like we'll listen to it. Yeah, like my dad will record it if we missed it, stuff like that.
No way.
It's all like a pride thing. It's not so
Yeah.
much of a like I want to stick by this. So in the sense of like, do I think monarchy is like good or bad? Like doesn't sound good initial like, and I don't think that's something. I think it is very relative because it's based off of like something very old that I don't think it applies to today. But at the same time, like I'm not against. I don't know. Like I'm not against the Queen and you know,
No,
not her
yeah.
herself and stuff.
I
So
don't know.
I mean, I know you have. Why don't you share your thoughts? Yeah, I'm sat here just because I'm English. I'm sharing my own
Yeah,
opinions.
hey,
But
you're more English than me.
Well,
so.
I don't know if that's true.
I'm only saying that because we literally had this whole conversation.
I think Courtney's more English than I am,
I just don't have the accent.
and that's what you need to be to be English. Yeah.
Well, no, I grew up in Canada, right? And so
Yeah.
that, like, we're still a Commonwealth country. Like, the Queen is still on our money. And, like, I think that was one of the things that really differentiated Canada from America, right? Because we both, like, separated from being colonies. But because we're still Commonwealth, like, we still had the Queen. And so I think we kind of took that and ran with it because, like, America was like, oh, Boston Tea Party, whatever, like, dumping your ships. So, like, I grew up in a culture that, like, also celebrated the monarchy and celebrated the Queen and, like, all of that.
Yeah.
But okay. If you're not a Christian, this might not make any sense to you, but this is my big thing, okay? So, I'm going to take us on a little history lesson. In the Bible, okay? Like, the people of the Israelites were looking at all the nations around them. And they're like, oh, they all have kings. Like, we want a king.
Yeah.
And God's like, that wasn't my plan. Like, that's not my plan. Like, I'm supposed to be your king, and that's why you're different from everyone else, right? Because, like, you're going to show them that you live by, like, faith and not by human rule and governing. And then they just kept on asking and asking and asking and asking. And God was like, well, fine. Like, I'm not a controlling God, so you want one? Get one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so for me, like, this was never the plan.
Right. Yeah.
Because what it does is it puts the person... One, I feel like we worship monarchs a lot.
Yeah.
And that's just not good.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, humans were not made to be worshipped. Like, that's just how it is.
Yeah.
But, like, also, like, it's a limited, like, it's just such a human thing that for me, I'm like, okay, like, again, as a Christian, someone that, like, reads and researches the Bible, like, it's like, oh, like, God said no. So, like, why are we doing this? Like, you know what I mean? Like, or, so that's where I form my stance. It has nothing to do against Lizzie personally or anything like that. But that's kind of where I come from. Yeah. With, again, still respecting and still, like, understanding the cultural significance as well, but also then the cultural implications of colonization and all of that. Like, there's so many different aspects we have to look at it. Yeah. But for me, then what that shows me is that that's not the absolute. That's a relative thing. Right. Because if I believe that the word of God is absolute, then, and that's just where I come from. Yeah. So for me, the monarchy can and should change. Yeah.
As she smiles. Yeah. Okay, so as we wrap up slowly, obviously this is something that does affect us in the grand scheme of things. But in the grand scheme of things, maybe it doesn't affect us so much. But in the sense of like directly, like right now, I don't.
Your day-to-day life.
Yeah, like I'm not affected. So, but
I'm tracking.
Okay, hold on. Let me rephrase. But in the grand scheme of things, it actually does. Sorry. So in the day-to-day, like I don't really see it in front of me. To be honest, maybe I'll live till 80, 75, whatever it is.
Oh.
Maybe a little bit older. And like
let's have a long life back.
And like I won't maybe I won't have even noticed that much, right? Yeah. But I think it does affect us. Maybe even if we don't see it completely. Like how do you think we move then in this space, like when there are like the do's and don'ts of like what this country goes by, like it's created truths, let's call it. Yeah. Like how do we move and like almost like play our role in the responsibility that we have, so to speak. Like if you're in disagreement, like should you say something? Yes. Do you think? Yeah. Yeah. I think like things like that.
Yeah,
right?
And that's the thing is like don't give in to like the fear, obviously, but before you disagree with something, don't disagree with it just for the sake of disagreeing with it. Yeah. Or like everyone hates the monarchy. Okay, me too. Like no, why? So that you have a response to people. Are they okay? You don't like it. You want it changed. What would you change it to? Yeah. Like what would you change about it? What outcome do you want? Like be educated in that, so it's not just empty. Like jargon or fight or fighting for the sake of fighting, because that doesn't do anything, you know? Yeah. Like, we don't want to be controversial just for the sake of being controversial. We want to
Yes.
be controversial for the sake of bringing in truth,
Yes.
right? Like, that's just what it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, know why, and then so like when people come at you, you know what I mean, and like, or whatever, something like, oh, the new police crimes and sentencing bill, you have to, you know, be arrested. Well, at least you know why, and it wasn't just for making a scene.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That's
Yeah.
my simple answer.
I feel like, I mean, that's pretty summed up well. I feel like you should be educated as well. Like, we should be like more like we should understand more like the times we're living in, you know. So
what's one of our buzz phrases?
Buzz phrases, yeah. So if this is something that you're in and amongst, like, we should be educated more in it for sure.
Yeah.
So I think that's another like part of your responsibility, so to speak.
Just know where you stand on something before you open your mouth about it.
There you go.
That's fine.
Drop that in there. Yeah. Cool.
Anyway, on that
Great.
lovely note.
Thanks, Courtney. Yeah. No, yeah.
But times are changing in this country, so it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have another episode on the coronation week of Charles.
Yeah. If there's any opportunities where we can go out and.
We're not gonna lie, guys. We missed a huge opportunity to go interview people that were in line.
That's poor. Like, it's poor from us.
Yeah, to go visit
We're better than
the Queen's casket, I guess.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what they call the
viewing. You know, David Beckham. Did you see that story of like how he waited in line for like 12 hours?
No, really?
Yeah, and he got offered to go like further up, but he was like, no, my granddad wouldn't have done that. Isn't that cool?
What a man!
What a man! Yeah.
Anyway, that's a weird way to end this episode on. So I think we're just gonna close it down here now. Zach.
Yes.
Where can they find us throughout the week?
Here we go. Yes. So we're on YouTube, guys. All podcast platforms, on TikTok and on Instagram at the Anchor of the Week. So yeah, check us out. Yeah.
Hey,
boom. Nailed that.
You nailed that so fast. I couldn't even think about it. That's awesome. But yes, guys, remember, here at the Anchor of the Week, we attack topics and not people.
Yes.
And we'll see you next time.
See you next week.